But you see, as I said, on the occasion where you choose the wrong messenger to carry the message, it's also good that we remind that messenger his bad record. His bad record. So I was on the Afoko one, right? Come to ACP Dr. Agojo. Godfred Dami told me personally, and my luck is that Agojo was standing. Oh, now Agojo is DCOP. Yeah, later he got a promotion to DCOP. That's Deputy Commissioner of Police. All right? When Godfred Dami told me that he just added Agojo to the treason trial to make it weighty. I'm telling you, I have no incentive to lie. Agojo was standing behind me on that Saturday. That Saturday when we had to do the retrial. So that one to involve the retrial. So this what happened. The Agojo case, they started with treason felony. The value is the same because the treason felony at the time, we hadn't changed the law. So it would have resulted in a death penalty. This current high treason, also death penalty. So when they did the treason, they started with the treason felony. That one involves using a jury. So meaning that when all the evidence has been led, at the end of it is the jury that will determine whether the accused are guilty or not. Of course, before they say guilty or not, the judge will direct them how to go about it, right? So it was clear to us as defense counsel that when Godfred Dami saw the composition of the jury, he wasn't confident that they will return a guilty verdict. So a few months down the line, they stopped the treason felony trial. They stopped it. They canceled it. So one hot afternoon, very close to Easter, Friday, then they said we should come in. They are calling our clients to BNI. We went there and they were rearrested. Godfred Dami was in charge. The Agojo and Co. One hot Friday afternoon. Oh, we're deceived. So our clients will say, oh, let's go. They say, hey, you are going to BNI on a Friday afternoon. But we're told that, oh, it's nothing. We went there and they were rearrested. Look, thank God, because of Kpebu number 4, quickly, I ran to the office, did a letter, and rushed to the Chief Justice. Thank God for Eni Yebua. He looked at it because of Kpebu number 4. Eni Yebua empaneled the court to sit on Saturday, the next day, and then they were admitted to bail. So when Dami saw that, no, Kpebu number 4 is working at the trial.
So you say Kpebu number 4, you say just for the purpose of education, it is your case?
Yes. So I went to court. That's the 4th case. Martin Kpebu number 4 versus Attorney General number 4. So the law previously, there was a contention that if police, BNI, others arrested a person and then it ran into the weekend, they say, but a lawyer, you know, courts don't sit on weekends. So when they are counting the 48 hours, they would exclude the weekends, public holidays, etc. So when we went to court, the Supreme Court, that's so for Akufo's valedictory judgment. That's the last judgment she did to retire from the Supreme Court. Perfect. So the Supreme Court held that when you are counting 48 hours, it includes weekends, public holidays, even days that the courts are locked. So when the courts are locked, you look for the Chief Justice, of course, the registrar. Then he will seek clearance from Chief Justice. And they will let you go to a judge's, to see a judge, any other public place. If it doesn't work, in extreme cases, to the home of the judge. So that's our law, right? So that was what saved us. No, Godfred Dami, because they attend Friday afternoon, just got them locked up. If I hadn't applied the application to get the court to sit on that Saturday, it wasn't Godfred Dami, it was me. I applied. We went and sat down there, and it was Kpebu number 4 they were using. So why is Godfred Dami's credit in that?
So former Attorney General says, look, this has been going on for one too many times. It amounts to some sort of abuse of this prosecutorial process that we have seen over there. Is it one that you agree with?
Yes, he's right. It amounts to abuse. But you also have to be quick to say that the Attorney General hasn't done anything unlawful. The fact that it is not unlawful does not mean it is not an abuse. There is the philosophy behind criminal law and prosecutions. And all the philosophers have always said that where the state arrays its powers against you, an individual, there's already a power asymmetry. Okay? And that is why you have all these rights and things. You have a right to remain silent, that kind of thing, and all those. Try to protect the individual. Okay? But whatever you do, the power of the state is immense. So prosecutors, for instance, are required, as an ethics of that prosecution, if you're a prosecutor, that if you find evidence that the person is not guilty, you actually should say it. In other words, you must not always go for a conviction if you find evidence that the person should not be convicted. It's a way of trying to balance the weight of the state falling on you. But where, again, we have this situation where the people prosecuting are politicians, okay, and the people they are prosecuting are their political opponents. You have a situation where there is most likely, instead of restraint, a situation where the person will dump the powers of the state on you. So, you don't want to be in the position of the gentleman who is being prosecuted. Because, look, it is not funny to be there. So I understand what AG Dame is saying. And honestly, if you leave me, we have to do a lot of reform. Personally, I don't subscribe to all the principles that we have borrowed from England and those things. We need to balance this thing. For instance, you can't take cost against the government.
All right.
Some of the things, when they are done to you, even if they are not correct, you suffer through it, you bear all the legal problems and whatever it is, and then when they lose, they go free. Okay? Meanwhile, your life is ruined. So let's be clear. It's oppressive, just by definition, when the state proceeds against you. And it's oppressive when the state does the things that the state can lawfully do. For instance, withdraw the charges and then rearrest you, refile a new set of charges. Okay? It's oppressive when the state can hold you, when the state can put bail conditions on you that you cannot meet, lock you up, and it doesn't mean you are guilty. You can actually turn out that you are innocent and everything that was done to you was just, unfair. And sometimes you get no compensation for it. All right? People are actually taken to jail. They stay there for a decade plus, and then something happens and they find out that, they were not even guilty, and they go. In other places, they can sue, they can get a lot of money. Recently, when somebody sued for how many decades or so, they gave him 800,000 or something like that.
Yes.
So look, it is not an easy thing to be in the hands of the state. And I hope and pray that our leaders will exercise some restraint, okay? But you are dealing with a situation too where there's rampant corruption. We've had that for 30 plus, in fact, more than 30 years. So you are like, are we going to fight this thing? And note that people are innocent until they are proven guilty. Okay,
that's true.
So there's a certain balancing act. I personally like to proceed as if there is no animosity, as in personal animus, personal hatred between the AG and maybe the people they are prosecuting. But they're also under some political pressure. We were all here. When my client Martin went out with his people and they were talking big about oral, because we had experienced so much of a mess that it sounded like, yes, oral was the way to go, But as we speak, we haven't seen much about oral. So there's pressure on them. Okay, that pressure can translate into oppression of people, including innocent people. So I'm urging that let's find a certain balance, because put yourself in that person's shoes. Okay, where does he find the money to sustain this kind of defense? And when you can just cancel the charges, put new ones, where does it stop? Where does it stop? And when you can rearrest the person and throw him in jail, where does it stop? You are treating the person worse than a criminal. But they are not a criminal. And the worst part of it is that everything that the AG is doing can be explained in law. Okay? So look, and what goes around comes around. Somebody is making notes, and they are going to pin some people, and when some things change in future, somebody is going to say, let us visit it on them. The last time we heard something like that, 3 judges were killed because of somebody's revenge. We need to break that cycle, okay, and then move in a space where prosecutions which are in the name of the state, on behalf of the people, are as depoliticized as possible. This is why we set up the OSP. So we have somebody who is not really a hardcore politician doing prosecutions across governments. You have a situation where when this government came in, the prosecutions were just thrown out, nolly prosecutions all over the place. And who says it won't happen again when there's another government? So we have a prosecutorial system which is too politicized, and that's why you see the things we are seeing. It's quite unfortunate.
Well, Kpebu, on this, and especially because of what the Attorney General has indicated being the reason for what we've seen in the decision to drop the charges. I mean, whatever has been found must be compelling enough to want to warrant a development like that, is it not?
Absolutely. I like how you've ended the question. Whatever has been found must be compelling enough to cause the withdrawal of the charges. And when we say withdrawal here, listeners and viewers, we are not using the technical term withdrawal. For us lawyers, when we say withdrawal, they will not arrest Annan and the wife.
On the same charge?
Yes. When it's withdrawal, you can't come back like this. So, but we are using it as an ordinary English word. Okay, so the lawyers, let's do what I always say effective communication. Yes. So let's go on. So for effective communication, withdrawal. Now, it speaks, the matter speaks for itself. And you see, in matters like this, I always say that you look at the track record of the person in the saddle. Ayene is one who so far has acquitted himself creditably as against the man crying wolf. Godfred was here. We caught him on tape, the Jakpa tape, where he shamelessly admitted that Ofori Atta and Akufo Addo were pressing him to use the state machinery to prosecute opponents so that there will be a by-election in Ato Forson's constituency. Abdallah, please, you are here. Can you play the tape? Godfred said Ofori Atta, who is now absconded. You see how nature works? Ofori Atta is absconded. He's fled with his tail between his legs, not willing to come to Ghana. You see? That is the thing Ofori Atta and Akufo Addo were doing. Using Godfred as their errand boy to use the state machinery to prosecute political opponents, a political vendetta. So when a man who has furthered such interests, you didn't believe in any, you didn't believe in Ato Forson's wrongdoing, you didn't believe that Ato Forson had done anything wrong, but because of Ofori Atta and Akufo Addo were pressing you, you went on and prosecuted, and now you got your reputation bent beyond this recovery, because the tape will always be there, we'll play it. The internet doesn't forget, it's his own voice. The learned trial judge, let's say Fiasewa Asare admitted the tape, it's authentic. So you see, Godfred should learn one thing. He is not the man to speak on this matter. You see, sometimes people forget. You always need the right messenger for strategy. Godfred is the worst person to speak on this matter because we are not done. After he himself was caught on the Ato Forson tape, Ato Forson and Japa tape, right? Admitting to such unethical conduct. And you see that eventually the matter was thrown out in the Court of Appeal. And when Dr. Ayini came, he said, no. Such unethical conduct, we don't accept at the bar. You heard Kofi Bentu say, a prosecutor, okay, that's the work, okay, is a minister of God. You are not supposed to prosecute for political vendetta. No, you prosecute only when the facts show that there is a crime. But in the tape, Godfred himself was not convinced there was a crime, and yet he kept going on. So, look, Aludiba, this Abdul Hanan Aludiba, it should be advised that for PR purposes, Godfred is not a good person to do this thing. Because, you see, it's bringing up memories. We are going to Afoku. Was Godfred not here? Afoku's case, 2 legs. 1, they prosecuted the case to the end. We're just left with judgment. Then they saw that they were about to lose. The evidence wasn't good. What did they do? They canceled the case. That's in technical terms. They entered the nolle prosequi and restarted. The
all
case,
over again.
Yeah, restarted all over. Of course, today, you see, eventually the second trial today couldn't convict Afoku. All right? The matter went to the Supreme Court. Long story short, the Supreme Court held that there wasn't evidence. You know, they wanted to declare unconstitutionality, etc. The Supreme Court said, no such, they couldn't declare it unconstitutional like that. And that in future, if you find evidence of abuse of the prosecutorial power, like how we caught Godfred on the Japa and Ato Forson tape, go to the High Court, etc. But long story short, they did a retrial, and that one too, what happened? They couldn't prosecute Greg. Godfred was what? Deputy Attorney General at the time, and later became Attorney General. So, superintending the re-prosecution. You leave that Afoko was granted bail. He, Godfred does he know about human rights? Afoko was granted bail. What machinations? They went back and ensured that the bail was revoked. If we hadn't had a change in government, the same facts. So you see how Ayeni, being human rights centered, when Afoko applied for bail this time, I said, no, I'm not interested. Admit Afoko to bail.
Within the
and
week,
that's it.
He had to
I'm
speak
not
to
done.
that. This was, sorry.
Oh, no, you can maybe, the question was strengthened.
He was asked this question about his position on the Gregory Afoko case. He says, you cannot equate, and this is Godfred Dami,
I heard him.
cannot equate a case of murder in the Gregory Afoko case, or alleged murder for that matter, to what is happening in the Annan case.
Yeah, I heard him.
The two are two different cases that cannot be juxtaposed to each other to want to now question why he is raising concerns about the abuse of the prosecutorial process by this current Attorney General.
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that?
I heard it and I was gobsmacked. I was totally gobsmacked because I was like, what is this? Haven't we all admitted that when there is looting of public funds, the money, the alleged looting of the public funds by Annan, hospitals without beds, no bed syndrome. You know how many people have died? Didn't Emisa die? An engineer, didn't he die? Because there were no hospital, there was no bed syndrome. You know how many people died? We've accepted in our public discourse, in our debates, that when you loot government funds, what you do is that you reduce hospital beds, you reduce roads, you reduce water quality, you reduce all the public goods that the government provides. So when I heard it, I was like, you see, I mean, it was, that's the most ridiculous argument I've ever heard. So simply, Annan's alleged looting of our public funds is what is contributing to the no-bed syndrome. That is what is contributing to the ambulances not getting fuel.
You were linking it to that?
Yes. But that money, if it was in the public funds, you know how many more hospital beds we would have provided. You know how many more millions of gallons of fuel we would have provided, etc. So that's not an argument to start with at all. And I heard it was so ridiculous. As I see, when you must talk at all costs, that's what you end up doing. You make arguments that don't add up. Arguments that don't go, they don't even improve your case at all. If anything, they rather make the case worse. So we're on the trajectory. So look, viewers, you know, we come to sit here, we want a better society. But you see, as I said, on the occasion where you choose the wrong messenger to carry the message, it's also good that we remind that messenger his bad record. His bad record. So I was on the Afoko one, right? Come to ACP Dr. Agojo. Godfred Dami told me personally, and my luck is that Agojo was standing. Oh, now Agojo is DCOP. Yeah, later he got a promotion to DCOP. That's Deputy Commissioner of Police. All right? When Godfred Dami told me that he just added Agojo to the treason trial to make it weighty. I'm telling you, I have no incentive to lie. Agojo was standing behind me on that Saturday. That Saturday when we had to do the retrial. So that one to involve the retrial. So this is what happened. The Agojo case, they started with treason felony. The value is the same because the treason felony at the time, we hadn't changed the law. So it would have resulted in a death penalty. This current high treason, also death penalty. So when they did the treason, they started with the treason felony. That one involves using a jury. So meaning that when all the evidence has been led, at the end of it is the jury that will determine whether the accused are guilty or not. Of course, before they say guilty or not, the judge will direct them how to go about it, right? So it was clear to us as defense counsel that when Godfred Dami saw the composition of the jury, he wasn't confident that they will return a guilty verdict. So a few months down the line, they stopped the treason felony trial. They stopped it. They canceled it. So one hot afternoon, very close to Easter, Friday, then they said we should come in. They are calling our clients to BNI. We went there and they were rearrested. Godfred Dami was in charge. The Agojo and Co. One hot Friday afternoon. Oh, we're deceived. So our clients were so, let's go. They said, hey, you are going to BNI on a Friday afternoon. But we're told that, oh, it's nothing. We went there and they were rearrested. Look, thank God, because of Kpebu number 4, quickly, I ran to the office, did a letter, and rushed to the Chief Justice. Thank God. for Eni Yebua. He looked at it because of Kpebu number 4. Eni Yebua empaneled the court to sit on Saturday, the next day, and then they were admitted to bail. So when Dami saw that no, Kpebu number 4 is working at the trial.
So you say Kpebu number 4, you say just for the purpose of education, it is your case.
Yes. So I went to court. That's the 4th case. Martin Kpebu number 4 versus Attorney General number 4. So the law previously, there was a contention that if police, BNI, others arrested a person and then it ran into the weekend, they say, but a lawyer, you know, courts don't sit on weekends. So when they are counting the 48 hours, they would exclude the weekends, public holidays, etc. So when we went to court, the Supreme Court, that's so for Akufo's valedictory judgment. That's the last judgment she did to retire from the Supreme Court.
Perfect.
So the Supreme Court held that when you are counting 48 hours, it includes weekends, public holidays, even days that the courts are locked. So when the courts are locked, you look for the Chief Justice, of course, the registrar. Then he will seek clearance from Chief Justice. And they will let you go to a judge's, to see a judge, any other public place. If it doesn't work, in extreme cases, to the home of the judge. So that's our law, right? So that was what saved that. No, Godfred, Dami, because they attend Friday afternoon, just got them locked up. If I hadn't applied the application to get the court to sit on that Saturday, it wasn't Godfred Dami, it was me. I applied. We went and sat down there, and it was Kpebu number 4 they were using. So why is Godfred Dami's credit in that?
So Lawyer Kofi Bento ended on some reforms to be able to address this situation where it then leads to the realms of abuse.
Yes.
That's why I want us to go into
it's useful,
well,
and you see,
so that
we are on Kpebu number 4. So
forgive me.
The onus should not be on the individual. He had to run to the Chief Justice to empanel on the weekend. As far as I am concerned, that's why I said I don't agree with some of those principles.
Yes.
If you arrest somebody and 40 hours, you have to make sure. That is how I think it should have gone. You have to make sure that within that space you do, or release the person. The weight of the state is immense. And when you are raged against one person, it's just unjust on the surface. But hopefully we'll get there.
Dr. Ato, quick one on this.
Okay. I thought you were going to, let the lawyers talk. I'm the only lawyer here, so
okay.
I didn't mind. No, don't worry. I will go ahead.
There's a reason why. You just
when they arrested Hanan, when he was charged, I was here. I came for this show here, and I remember, or I know what food or the lack of food did to the MPP in 2024. Almost everything. Everybody will say franchise is good, but the food quality, the food quantity. Parents were literally carrying food to people. Availability or the lack of food became one of the biggest political albatrosses around the neck of the MPP and contributed significantly to the massive loss. Then later, they started revealing these things. It became like, why would one man sit wherever he is in charge of food and then allow his political party to suffer the thing? I joined the chorus in condemning Hanan without even knowing what is happening. I was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. What is happening today reveals to me that Hanan became part of a game, a political game, to appease the oral foot soldiers of the NDC. His name was thrown there, and these atrocious allegations were thrown there into the shacks. Because I refuse to believe that after one full year of prosecution,
almost,
an attorney general midway said, hey, I found something so damning that I will throw what I want to be. That's what I'm saying. I wanted to hear the lawyers. I'm not a lawyer. Maybe a lawyer will tell me. Again, Mr. Kofi said it. No. Everything he did is legal.
Oh, yes.
So I'm not questioning the legality of it. But I'm saying that as an lawyer, we can sit and we can also watch and then ask ourselves, what due diligence was done? A man and a woman went through this, left their young children at home. What due diligence was done? The treatment so far by this attorney general on this guy is inhumane. If you ask, they will tell you similar things that happened in the past. I'm sure Hamza can say it. People, all of them can say it. Does that make it right? Does that make it right? Because again, the man is here. Treat him. And somebody was once making a point. When you see things like this, then you begin to ask yourselves, why? Is it vendetta? Is it to please the gods of oral? That after so long, That is the first thing I want to say. How unfair it is. And I sat there and said, oral ato in swim. And I still stand by it. The oral has to in swim because you don't go on an oral, something that you promised so bad for over a year, and then come all of a sudden and drop the case. For me, something stink and something's not fair. Two, what we are saying is what we call the abuse of the nolle prosequor. Once again, I sat here and I said it.
Yeah.
The first, I was saying it from a financial perspective, that you have an attorney general deputy who have fly down the toilet billions of cedis.
Yeah.
And then, meanwhile, they are chasing other billions of cedis. And then I ask myself, why? Why couldn't you keep both prosecutions? Maybe you would have gotten, let's say, 1 billion from the people that were being prosecuted here, then you get another billion from what you are prosecuting. Wouldn't that reach? How much did the oral say they were going to get? How much did you guys say you were going to get, Kpebu?
No, it's not official.
How much did you guys say you were going to get? It's a simple question. But how much was it? How much was it?
It's not an official
But how much was it? Okay,
no,
that's my point.
It's not an official
so I'm saying that, assuming you have collected from the men and women who were being charged and the NDC officials, and then also collected from this one, you would have at least gotten your money. You didn't do that. That's the abuse. That was the financial argument of the abuse of nolle prosequor I was making. But now it's a human rights. You just mentioned it. They used nolle prosequor on Afoko. It was wrong. It was unfair. It was unjust. He suffered for it. Somebody, an attorney general citizen, will weaponize nolle prosequor against Gregory Afoko and his human rights. It's not a human being. Why? Then we condemned it. Today, another attorney general is doing the same thing. Today, another attorney doing the same. So my point is that why is it that these same lawyers, people that we've paid so much money to protect us, are the same people using the same laws against human beings, defenseless human beings?
Politics. This one, the Hanan and Co are on bail. I'm making a point.
I'm making a point. The same nolle prosequor is used to punish both of them. That's the argument I'm making. I said I wanted to hear the lawyers, but I'm making a case based on policy and based on policy. That this is the same thing that's happening. And for me, it's worrying. It's worrying because he just made a point. When you are arrested by the state, you are defenseless, helpless. You are coming against the whole might and power of the state. And to have the state do this to you for over 1 year and do it. So I call it the abuse of the nolle prosequor. So that abuse of the nolle prosequor comes in two forms. One, you're going to be under financial abuse where you reward your political friends and say, we will not prosecute you, go. Or it can be what? They use what? To punish people we perceive our political opponents, we don't like it. Number three, there's something, I'm a good fan of Law and Order. The show, on the, you know that show, Law and Order. You are arrested, you are under arrest. You have a right required, you have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, the state can give you. That right to attorney is part of the Miranda rights. That is also being strongly abused today. I heard you, Kpebu, sitting on there talking about the fact that you have a client who stayed in jail for almost 3 weeks without access to you, your lawyer. The same thing is happening today. Why?
The Iyoko is denying it. They say they are denying it.
Masa, I'm telling you, why are we doing that today? Why is it that today you see, I don't want you to be, see, when you justify some of this is like coming from powerful state here, it's hard because you are providing either legal or public ground for them to continue to do it. Just condemn it.
Oh.
Just condemn it. You complain bitterly about what happened. I'm saying factual based on what?
I came here to complain about
his lawyer said Annan lawyer said that he wasn't giving. They were not there. That's what they said.
The Attorney General has come.
The lawyers. I'm saying that there are two. So now there are two versions. There are two versions there. There are two versions there. The lawyer said we were not given a chance. They were not there. Attorney General says they were there. In your case, it's true that you were not given, right? So let's go by your case. Why? So let's forget about the Hanan case. Let's come to you. Why is it that a non-human rights lawyer like you will have a client who is sitting in jail for almost 3 weeks without access to him? That time you didn't even know whether he was dead. You don't know whether he was sick. Why? In a reset environment, why are we doing this to ourselves? And the question is that when we do these things to ourselves, it doesn't go away. The current Attorney General was a victim of sightings, right? He was. So history tells us that it will not stop. My point is that somebody somewhere has to sit down and say, let's stop these things. They are perfectly legal, human rights abiding ways you can use to still convict people. Yeah. To still get the money.
Yes.
a prosecutor should not be vindictive, should not show where power lies, and go out there and try to use the powers that they have derived from the Constitution to settle political scores. My point is that we can't do both of these things. Look, if you sit here today and you justify any of these things, my point is that tomorrow it could be you.
Oh, no, nobody justified. I think we've corrected it. 3 weeks. I accepted that.
My point is that,
but don't say anybody
there's another observation that I've seen. Finally, I could say that about bail. And again, Kpebu number 4 said it about the bail issue. I remember when you were arrested, Nathan. You were told to bring a house.
Yeah.
Why? Where's Martin Kpebu going? A similar thing happened to Paul Addo to bring a house. Why? Why are we weaponizing bail against innocent, law-abiding, upright citizens? Why? Why is the state doing that to us? My point is that, look, I realized something. I was telling somebody. You, no matter, say whatever you want to say about Gloria Akufo Addo and Godfred. A lot of a good number of the high-profile prosecution they did of former lawyers, and good number of them were giving bail on self-cognizance, or what is it called? Self-cognizance. They did that. They said, no, I want to come. Right. A good number of them were giving self-cognizance. They said that, look, we believe whom you are. You are already under so much pressure from, how do you call it, these charges alone. We shouldn't tell you to bring your house. We shouldn't tell you to do the self-cognizance to come to you. But almost all, 100% of all the prosecutions that the current Attorney General is doing, none of them is on self-cognizance.
There are big monies involved. The treason trial
are they bigger than the money, the monies that went? Are they bigger than the Saglemi money? Are they bigger than the former finance minister's money? I'm saying that you can always justify the people. That is what you are not getting. I want to get this.
No, be specific.
Any attorney general can do that.
I saying Saglemi, that was on self-recognizance.
I'm saying some of the cases. I'm saying so. The point I'm making. No, I'm saying a number of them. I'm not saying all of them.
Be specific.
Number of them. So look, I'm saying that right now. Look, so were there cases? Even if it is 40%,
isolate them.
Even if it is 50% of cases, the former attorney generals decided that on some cases, or in a number of cases, it was important to do that. But I'm saying that the current attorney general has decided that none of them applies. And I'm saying,
which cases are that? Let's be very scientific.
I just want to. What are the specific cases that you are referencing? So that if there's a legal justification for it.
Okay, the question, is it true? Is it true that both Gloria Akufo Addo and Godfred gave people self-cognizance? Is it true? Is it true?
There are few.
In the political high-profile case, did they do that?
I can't even remember which one, but I think the one I remember it was the court. It was Justice Bedi.
What is it? Has this guy done that? So my point is, if you then put the corpus of all this together, okay, we've come to agree. Attorney generals have so much power, and so that power may come to you at your point, the point where you are vulnerable. That unless or until we begin to do these things, if we allow these things to go, especially for me, what pains me more is the lack of access to a lawyer. It amounts to torture, and it's inhumane and should not continue.
Lawyer Hamza Soini, thank you.
Good morning, right? Good morning to you, my seniors on the panel, and of course, our cherished viewers out there. I have listened to the submissions of the three great men that we have in the studio, except the fact that one is always driven by mischief.
He wants to go to Parliament.
Exactly.
Oh, you mean Parliament?
You meant Kpebu.
First of all, it is important for us to understand the basis of this discussion. And it is important because it will give perspective to the matters that we are discussing here today. It is coming from a former Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana. With responsibilities of driving reform as far as our judicial architecture is concerned and delivery of justice. And so he had every legitimate power for 4 years to inform policy and make amends, especially when we are talking about issues that we all can comfortably sit here and describe as being abusive. What did he do? Legitimate question. And you see, if you look at the orientation of the New Patriotic Party, I've always argued that, look, they are not suddenly behaving as a man drawing. When you are drawing in sea, at sea, right? And you see any available stick, there's a tendency for you to see it as a log and present it as such to onlookers. What is actually not supposed to be an issue, all of a sudden, the NPP tries to make it an issue for their own political relevance because this is a party that is dying.
The NPP is dying?
Yes, and please,
Really?
And I'll demonstrate to you why. Before this discussion, we were talking about Bank of Ghana. The likes of Kojo Kyeremanteng held press conferences in Parliament and raised issues.
Dealt with the issues.
Yes, I'm not dealing with the substance of the issues. They raised issues about financial irregularities as far as their assessment of that particular document is concerned. An opportunity has been presented for you to come and interrogate the issues, and all of a sudden, on the major media platforms, we cannot find
Number one, not major.
We cannot find the Honorable Amin Adam, and we cannot find Dr. Gideon Boakye, and you are sending Richard Ahiagba to come and engage policy makers in relation to that statement on our national TV programs. Clearly. That tells you the kind of agenda they set for this country. But when there's an opportunity for them to confirm same, they run away. That is what Godfred is doing with this current Hanan issue. Look, Alfred, it is legal, perfectly legal for the Attorney General to file withdrawal or nolly prosecution in court. It is acceptable. It is also legal for the Attorney General to rearrest if he deems it appropriate to do so.
Yeah.
So around this table, we are not questioning the legalities of these processes. And I resist the temptation to agree with the conclusion that the Attorney General is more powerful than the accused. Because in the wisdom of the framers of our Constitution, there are certain institutional, backing that you can take as a citizen of the country to ensure that the Attorney General or the state, even in exercising that prosecutorial authority, does not exceed the bounds of that authority. And I think that Sina Martin Kpebu did that in a number of cases. So if you consider that the rearrest was something alien to our laws, you are within your legal right to challenge him. Did you have to go on national platform or television stations challenging him as a lawyer and a former Attorney General? Was that the appropriate forum? In any case, Iyoko has indicated that they have not, or they did not deny him access to his lawyers. So it is his word as against Iyoko's word. And knowing the two references that I'm making, Iyoko and that of him, in ascertaining who is speaking the truth, credibility is crucial. What is the credibility of Iyoko and what is the credibility of Godfred? This is a gentleman who, for want of a better word, decided to cut down the ethics of the legal profession and proceeded to engage directly with a suspect without his client and sought to influence him to deceive the court.
But why do you put this as Godfred against Iyoko?
No,
we're not talking about the system in itself that
I'm just
he also
telling you
raised
that
concerns
the
about.
attempt to create an impression as though that the system has suddenly become terrible because we have Dr. Dominic Ayine as Attorney General and Dr. Justice Sai as Deputy. It's a creation of the MPP's own kind of politics, like they did with the Bank of Ghana report. And that's the point I'm making. So we have to decide as onlookers whether we'll be deceived by that unhealthy politics of the NPP, or we will actually stay true to the facts. And that should be the focus. The NPP standard cannot be the standard for Ghana, especially when the facts are clear. I'm listening to my brother. He's found a way of drawing in aura and the objectives of aura. Even in the proposals to the Ghanaian people during the election about the objectives of aura, we never intimated anywhere that oral's objectives will supplant that of constitutional requirements of accountability and possible punitive measures. Oral was meant to retrieve stolen resources. It did not mean that in the course of retrieving, we will not go for punitive actions in the form of, the appropriate word should be maybe sentencing against people who are found guilty in some other aspects. So the two can go together. And what is happening in the case of Annan is not one that is only targeted towards retrieving, but it is also one also aiming to ensure punitive action, provided he is found guilty in our law courts. And these are the issues. For me, this sudden obsession with the fact that, oh, our system has become so terrible, and so human rights are being violated. The critical question, and mostly my response has always been straightforward. You see, the NDC has a mandate for 4 years to ensure that we drive through our reset agenda. We are in office for about 1 year, 4 months, so or so. We would still be living the consequences of decisions of the last 8 years, even whilst we try to reset. And so we are not claiming that in a matter of 1 year, 4 months, we have been successful in resetting the challenges in the judicial sector. As and when they come up, the government will respond appropriately. And so trust me. Look, I gave an example in the not too distant past about this decision to deny, is it your Eastern Regional Chairman? The NPP, your Eastern Regional Chairman, what's his name?
Eastern Regional Chairman of the...
Oh, the young guy who talks anyhow.
Oh, no. I mean, look.
Okay, so I take it back.
Don't.
What's the name? But he talks anyhow, that's the truth.
No, but you're speaking about the person...
Yes. Abronya. You see, Alfred, even when the issues were raised, some of us had issues with the judgment. Though I'm a member of the NDC.
Yeah.
And part of government communication.
Yes.
I've raised issues with the judgment.
Yes.
And even the judge sought to confirm his decision by reference to an earlier decision he had given.
Yes.
And then Nana Dodan Kwaku Addo as president, because the gentleman was said to have insulted the president.
Yes.
I condemned it on behalf of the party. So there is still the likelihood that even in the state institutions, people who are not political appointees can be forgiven to conclude or to think that the standard in the SWAL NPP regime can still be applicable today.
So let's add you one sentence. Even Fosu Kwachi, yeah, he also condemned it. So even the government, meaning that the president was condemning it.
We
and
never saw that in the last 8 years.
The minister, he speaks for the president. Yes. He sat here and condemned it.
And so, Alfred, you see, when you were speaking, I was very quiet. Please.
Let's say something.
So, no, you are raising your head. This is not a classroom.
You allow people to talk.
No, but you see, Alfred, you see, and interestingly, all of a sudden, many other social commentators who decided to be very diplomatic in the past when many of these issues came up have suddenly assumed a very nationalistic outlook. Oh yes, even if it happened in the past and it is happening now, we should suddenly know that no, there is a need for change. We totally agree. But you see, in our bid to inject that sanity, an impression should not be created that this government rather is strengthening what we condemned in the past. And that is why I'm saying that, look, Annan himself has not said anywhere that he was denied access to his lawyers. It is Godfred who is telling us. Iyoko has indicated that they did not deny him access to his lawyers. So how did Godfred get to the realization that Annan was not being given access to his lawyers? Who did he speak to at Iyoko? Who did he request that access from? The Deputy Attorney General indicated that even they have had some professional courtesies of exchanges. And those concerns were not raised to him. So who told him or who denied him access? We need to know. And the danger in this country is that people who have credibility deficits are those who set the stage for us when it comes to discourse of this nature. And that is worrying. We must have some level of confidence in our state institutions. Because that is the only way we can be in a better position to verify whatever claims others are making.
But the call for reform, so as to ensure that even though the Attorney General is doing what is lawfully right, and that's what Mr. Mento was saying, what is being done is lawfully right, based on what I referenced in Article 88, it will be done in a manner that does not veer into the realms of abuse. so that while you are carrying out your lawfully mandated duty of controlling prosecution.
So give me a semblance of abuse in relation to what we are discussing, the Annan case. Give me a semblance of abuse. So, and I'm telling you that if there was a semblance of abuse, the law creates an avenue for you to even challenge, say, I just don't want us to proceed. I'm not saying that there's no possibility of abuse, even with our legal regimes as they are. There's that possibility. The state can abuse its power. But I'm telling you that in relation to this matter we are discussing, I want to know where that semblance of abuse can be attributed to. Especially when there is an avenue for his lawyer to activate if he believes that indeed an abuse was occasioned. Did he activate such a process?
See, what we are saying, it is abusive to try somebody for about a year, drop the trial, and start a new one. That's abuse on the face of it.
Oh, no, that's not true. That's not appropriate.
No.
With the greatest of respect.
I have said it is lawful. He can do that. If it happens to you, you won't like it.
Yes,
my point,
it doesn't mean that is an abuse.
My brother, hold on. See, if even it is challenged and it turns out that you came out innocent, what is your recourse against the state?
You can sue.
Exactly. Sue for what?
Malicious prosecution.
You sue for malicious prosecution in this. When was the last time you heard somebody succeed like that?
So you don't have confidence in the legal architect. You don't have confidence in
it. Do you take cost against the states in court?
We reduce it because of the financial burden. Maybe we can revisit it.
We should revisit it.
It's possible.
So what you're saying is today you can't?
Yeah, no, we
Good.
can.
That's the point I'm making. Okay, you are incurring costs every day, 2-3 years, stay in court, and all the other things. You can't travel, all the things that it does to you. And the state, doesn't have to bear any cost. People pay their salaries, etc. The point we are making, and I say what goes around comes around. It is not a funny thing when you have the whole state arrayed against you. We must do everything we can do to balance that power. I am not saying we should not fight corruption. Yeah. You have said eloquently that certain things happen under MPP, which were totally unconscionable.
Absolutely.
Were they unlawful? No.
Yeah.
They were not unlawful. They were just not right, unconscionable. Okay? People being run around and all those other things. So I'm saying, look, these things going on. Dr. Ato was saying, when will this stop?
Thanks for watching. Like and share the video. You can also drop your comment. Please don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell to turn on the notification.